is Armed American Radio's Daily Defense.
Armed American Radio's Daily Defense, because they don't want me to, that's why I do it.
Presented by X Insurance. X Insurance. From the Sig Sauer Studios on the Patriot Mobile Platinum Microphone. Here is your host, the loudest conservative voice in America fighting the enemies of freedom, Mark Walters.
It is a Monday. Armed American Radio's Daily Defense begins right now. How the heck are you? Everybody feeling okay after last night's big game? Probably some of you aren't. Some of you might have taken the day off. I wouldn't blame you. I wouldn't know about that anymore because I don't watch that stuff. But nonetheless, you are in the 6 Hour Studios with me, Mark Walters, filling your prescription for freedom today and every day in front of this Patriot Mobile Command Center microphone. It's all being brought to you by the great X Insurance. Greg in Dallas, Texas. I told you last night I'd see you soon. I'd see you too soon. How you doing?
Yeah, not too bad. It is too soon.
Here we are again, right? It never fails. One day after the other, 6 days, bringing you some news and entertainment on the right to keep and bear arms. Greg, we are on Twitter today. We're up on X Live today. That's always fun. We had Rumble and YouTube and everything last night, and we're still getting all that set up for you. We'll have those for you on the weekend shows for now. We're working on the daily shows for you, but that's always fun stuff. So that worked out real well. You tell people where to participate in the chat, and we'll get started with our guest, Andy Hooser, to kick off a Monday.
Sure, if you want to join the live chat, all you have to do is head on over to your app store, grab the Telegram messaging app, create your profile, and search for Armed American Radio Conversations.
And that'll do it. That'll bring you in. Andy Hooser, the voice of reason. How you doing, my brother?
What's up, man? Happy Monday. Ready to rock and roll for another one.
Happy Monday, brother. It is a Monday, too, isn't it? Good heavens, it's a Monday already.
It's a Monday.
So
That's right. Greatest day of the week.
Well, is it cold up there? Because you like cold weather. We always have some fun with you on Mondays. Talk about your weird, crazy affinity for, like, negative temperatures, you know?
Yeah, it is not yet. It's like mid-40s right now, but we are supposed to get another snow, winter, blizzard thing the next couple of days. So tomorrow's a high of like 19, and I cannot wait.
Just the weirdest thing I've ever seen, Greg, in Dallas, Texas at the mothership. That is so strange. Most people are screaming for spring where you are right now, and you are just loving
I'm telling you, man, when Donald Trump buys Greenland, I am the first one to migrate to Greenland.
You'll probably want to go to Iceland.
Yeah, I've flown over both of those. I didn't land in either place.
Yeah, but Greenland's supposed to be the ice. Iceland is the green place, so I want to go to Greenland because it's ice.
Right?
I only want to go to Iceland so that I can scuba dive the continental shelf there and touch North American continent and European continent.
Wait, hold on. I heard Andy got injured. What happened? Well, his car hit a patch of ice, and he got in a wreck. Wait, I heard Andy got injured. What happened? Well, he slipped on the ice when he was shoveling snow. Hey, I heard Andy got injured. What happened? Somebody's polar bear. Somebody's car hit some ice and hit Andy. You know, hey, I heard Andy got and Andy. No.
Andy needs another bear story to his life.
So did you did you watch the big game last night by any chance?
I actually did. I sat and I watched the entire game last night. I did.
First
time I've watched any game, and I mean last year I watched part of the Super Bowl, but this one I actually watched the entire game.
You know, we've been on air every Sunday for 16 years over Super Bowls. I haven't seen one in 16 years.
Yeah, I'm trying to catch up on Super Bowls.
Well, you know, I really couldn't care less. But, you know, Philly went crazy, Greg, as we predicted last night. A lot of arrests, you know, celebrations turned to riots. I talked to our good friend Stephen Gutowski today, who was in Center City. Police were doing everything they could to get people out of Center City. And I asked him in a text message today, did you get out with your skin? He said, yeah, it was wild. It was incredible. So he's okay. And I guess he had a great time. So, Andy, welcome in. We haven't had a chance to talk with you yet because it just happened on Friday. But Trump's executive order is, of course, making huge news now, protecting the Second Amendment. I'm sure you're familiar with it. I'd love to know your thoughts on it. What do you think about all of it? Let's kick off the conversation there. I want to get your opinion, as we do with all of our guests, on this topic.
It was a big one. Yeah, that was a great way to wrap up the week with an executive. And it kind of came out of nowhere because he hasn't really talked about gun issues, Second Amendment issues at all. So it was kind of wild to see him just out of the blue sign that one. But and I forget the exact wording of it, but essentially to investigate any infringements upon the Second Amendment. So it was a very vague, for what I remember, a very vague executive order, really just investigating where we are infringing upon the rights. I find it even more interesting that, of course, it's going under the Department of Justice and Pam Bondi, when Pam Bondi, as an Attorney General of Florida, wasn't really the most pro-actively defending the Second Amendment. So the fact that she's going to be handling it is interesting to me. It's good to hear because it sounds like she's kind of changed her tone and lightened up on that issue quite a bit, and that it was so vague that it gives the opportunity of the executive branch and the Department of Justice to really interpret that how they want to on what they see as an infringement upon 2A issues, which I kind of like because the Democrats use that kind of wording all the time. So, You know what? Let's go at it. Let's investigate. Let's see where we can find some things and see if we can't reverse some laws on Second Amendment issues.
So without even realizing it, I think you just gave us a lot to unpack. Starting with Bondi, I was on Cam and Company today talking with Cam Edwards about this very issue, and he brought up a couple good points that we didn't talk about last night on Armed American Radio's Monstercast pertaining to this. You have Mississippi case right now. You've got another Fifth Circuit case right now that, the administration this is where Pam Bondi's about to get tested, is what I was talking about with Cam. How is she going to react with these cases? One of them is a machine gun case out of Mississippi that was found under Bruin. That it's the Hughes Act. I don't want to go into too much detail about that, but it's a gun control act, that was added that says you can't buy a machine gun after post 86, okay? Which put machine guns out of reach for most people because they're very, very expensive. We're talking, in many cases, tens and tens of thousands of dollars. As Justin Moon was talking about from Car Arms last night. These things are out of reach, but for the wealthy. And they should be available to everyone. I absolutely believe that. I want one just because. Right? I'm not going to shoot it all the time because it's really expensive, but they are a blast to shoot. But I should be able to have that choice. And I shouldn't have to be a multi-gazillionaire to exercise that right. So how is Bondi's DOJ going to handle a case like that? Will she appeal that case? Test number one, right?
Yeah, it's a great test.
Look, it is a great test. The two areas that you're referring to when she was, quote unquote, not real friendly with guns in Florida, those were the two provisions in the Parkland bill we've talked about almost ad nauseum on Armed American Radio, and that being her support for red flag laws during that time in 2018, 2019, and her support for the stripping of constitutional rights of Floridians between the ages of 18 and 20. Now, we have won cases that have wiped out. Just recently, the Fifth Circuit said 18 to 20-year-olds can own guns and buy guns. It's an unconstitutional infringement to not allow them to own a firearm as an adult in America. Off the Bruin decision. What does Bondi do there? So it was an interesting conversation with Cam today. I'll tell you what I think she does with both of those. Nothing. And I'll tell you why. Because Trump's mandate is bigger than her. And the executive order, I think, put the icing on the cake. I talked about that at great length last night with Gottlieb and other guests, including John Lott, and in the roundtable. So I don't know, but it certainly is worthy of discussion right now. We're going to have to wait and see, Andy, but it's interesting, isn't it?
It's very interesting. Yeah. I mean, I'm glad, again, that we're focusing on it. I was, the week that Trump got into office and you were out at SHOT Show and I was filling in for the program, Greg and I were having the conversation of our speculation on how much of an importance it will be on the priority list for Donald Trump when he's focusing on foreign policy, getting energy back on track, going after illegal migrants, that where the Second Amendment would fall on the priority list to actually focus on. So that, again, that's why it kind of shocked me when we saw this out of the blue on a Friday afternoon with everything else going on, and that he focused on that. And that you're right, it's going to be a test to see exactly where we stand. Is that going to be the line that they say that infringes upon the Second Amendment or not? Or will they say, well, it's kind of common sense. No one wants a gun, an automatic rifle, a machine gun like that that shouldn't be in the public. That's kind of a line that we draw. I mean, Donald Trump has really been obviously very favorable to the Second Amendment. He really walked himself back a little bit after the bump stock ban from the first administration. So where that line is for Trump and for Pam Bondi and the DOJ, this is going to be the test to kind of push that boundary and see where everything falls.
Yeah, we don't know what she's going to do. I mean, educated guess. I don't think she's going to do anything. As it was pointed out last night, she serves at the pleasure of the president, who ran the most pro-gun campaign of any president in modern history, and maybe in history, that I can certainly remember. He's clearly learned a lot between his last administration and this one. He's matured not just on that subject, but in a lot of areas. So I just don't see her bucking that system. I don't. When she serves at the pleasure of the president, whose campaign, who just issued her a directive to go after anti-gun garbage in through the DOJ that has permeated the Biden administration. So I don't think she's going to make any what would be viewed as anti-gun moves right now. The real test is going to come, ladies and gentlemen, when something tragic happens, which sadly, Andy, it will. We'll tackle that aspect of it when we come back. Armed American Radio's Daily Defense continues. On a Monday, we're talking with Andy Hooser, the voice of reason from KQAM Radio, Wichita's big talker, and Andy is Wichita's favorite son. We'll be right back.
Defense is being brought to you by Patriot Mobile. Visit patriotmobile.com/AAR and use the AAR promo code to get free activation today. Welcome back to the show.
Yeah, welcome back to the show. Patriot Mobile phone I'm holding up if you're watching us on X today, and we do appreciate that. You too can have a Patriot Mobile phone. Get off the woke companies that, believe me, AT&T or Verizon, they ain't shifted their anti-gun positions, ladies and gentlemen, because Trump's in office, okay? They hate you. It's pretty much that simple if you haven't figured that out over the years. It's a fact, and they didn't just all of a sudden flip-flop yesterday or 3 weeks ago because Trump won an election in a big way. They still can't stand you. They're still woke corporations. Patriot Mobile is the real deal. They support you. They support your gun rights. Make sure to check them out at patriotmobile.com/AAR or Armed American Radio, and you get free activation when you go over to that landing page and use that AAR promo code, just like I did on this phone. And as I tell you all the time, you don't have to do all your phones at once. You do them piecemeal, one line at a time, like we're doing here at the ranch, patriotmobile.com. You're in the 6 Hour Studios with me, Mark Walters, filling your prescription for freedom. It's all brought to you by the great X Insurance. Please go out of your way to support all of our partners. You can find them all at armedamericanradio.com. Andy Hooser, the voice of reason. Welcome back, my brother.
Yes, sir.
So let's get away from Bondi now. I'm done with her for now. Are you okay with that?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, like you said, I mean, I think we covered her. I think she's in a position to do Trump's bidding, and we'll see where she falls on that line.
Or not. And I have a feeling if she doesn't, she's out of a job. Honestly, that's really my opinion. I think his mandate is bigger than she is. And I don't think she's going to, pun intended here, trump his agenda. I don't think she's going to try to do that. The question becomes, it was her job as Attorney General. And here I wanted to get off Pam Bondi, but I kind of got to get this out. It was her job as a Florida Attorney General to uphold Florida law. If you want to make a change in Florida law, make a change in Florida law. Okay? I get that's her job. It's also her job to uphold U.S. law as Attorney General of the United States of America. So how is she going to handle that when it comes to 2A issues in the wake of this executive order? I think that executive order made clear to her, hey, don't buck me on this. You ran on this. Please don't be you. I think you're going to be a great Attorney General. I don't want to have to fire you, but Trump will fire somebody. It depends. And where we left off, we'll just go there. Sadly, a tragedy will happen, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to happen at some point. It's just life. And when it does, Andy, I think that's the real test for Pam Bondi, because the Dems are going to come out of the woodwork, going crazy all over the Republicans, House, Senate. Anti-gunners are going to start screaming more so than they would have before. See, you're pro-gun stuff. They're going to, now, is she going to cave? What is she going to do? That, sadly, unfortunately, I hate to admit it, but we will probably find that out. Andy, you feel like going to Sweden? It's cold in Sweden.
Ooh, I like that. All right.
I married a young lady from Sweden many, many moons ago in a galaxy far, far away in a former life. And I've been to Sweden. I was over there for a number of weeks. And it was a beautiful country. I had a great time over there. It was a long time ago. I was a young buck at the time. And I enjoyed my time over there. And obviously, I have an affinity for the area. I got to know a little bit about the country. Had family from there for many years. And, stayed in touch with those folks over the years. But Sweden's a weird country. Well, socialism works. All you got to do is look at Sweden. Look at Sweden today, Andy. It's a mess. They've destroyed their own country. They've wrecked their own borders. They've let the enemy inside the gates. Okay? So I say that for a reason, because I'm going to take you back to August 8th, 2016. Vox. Don't you just love Vox, Andy Hooser, the voice of reason?
That's right.
Yeah, it's fun to go after these guys. Sweden may have the answer to America's gun problem. This popped up years ago in 2016. Keep in mind, this was 2 years before Parkland. And I want to just kind of go through this with you, Andy, and then I want to jump to today. 20 years ago, I headed to Sweden for a sabbatical year to study the country's attitudes toward hunting. As a responsible hunter, I brought my own guns, an old 12-gauge shotgun and a Remington 30-06, because I didn't want to miss a shot or wound an animal using unfamiliar borrowed firearms. And I want people who might be jumping in now to know that this was written by a guy by the name of Tom Heberlein. This is not me talking about me personally. I'm quoting from his piece. because I didn't want to miss a shot or wound an animal using unfamiliar borrowed firearms. As a sociologist, I thought that bringing my own firearms would give me some firsthand experience with European gun laws. That happened sooner than I expected. So his employer at the time, Swedish Hunters Association, he goes on to have to fill out all the paperwork. He's praising all of Sweden's gun laws. Like all guns in Sweden, they have to be stored in a locked safe, so colleagues took them directly to the Wildlife Research Lab when I got there that has a walk-in vault to store firearms. I began to think more about the responsibilities of gun owners rather than gun owners' rights. Before I could hunt, there was a trip to the range where my shooting scores were registered. Much of what happened when I went hunting in Sweden was strange to me. Hunting birds in the mountains with unloaded shotguns, for example. I don't know how you do that. Stopping the moose hunt to sit around a campfire and roast hot dogs, and on and on and on. As we face a firearm crisis in America today, it's time for hunters to stop hiding behind the Second Amendment and claim the moral high ground as our nation's responsible gun owners. Now, I could go on and on and on. Andy, is the Second Amendment about hunting, bro?
That would be a no.
Has it ever been about hunting?
That would be a big fat no.
But Sweden doesn't have a Second Amendment. There are gun owners in Sweden. They have to jump through hoops. Everything's registered. Everything's licensed. They have all kinds of things they have to. Let me put it this way, guys. Getting a FOID card in Illinois or getting a permit to carry in Jersey is easier than going through the process and the steps that you have to go through in Sweden to own a gun. But the hunters don't mind, because when it's all said and done, Andy, they get to hunt. So I ask you again. Andy gets it because you're chuckling. Go ahead. Take it away. I don't have to go any further. You just run with it.
Yeah, well, the hunter gets it because at the end of the day, they get to hunt. I mean, like you said, it is that mindset that, well, these nations don't have a Second Amendment, so they don't have a fundamental right to protect themselves. So, you know, of course, they just rely on government, a.k.a. law enforcement, to come and clean up the body when there's something bad that actually happens. So they're totally okay with going through this rigorous process. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know in Sweden. Is it mandatory to join the military there and have a certain amount of years in Sweden? I thought so, but maybe not. No. I don't believe it is. You're thinking Switzerland. Okay. Yeah, well, there's Switzerland too. Yeah, I know they do that there in Austria and some of the other places like that. But
Switzerland,
I didn't know if Sweden did.
It's kind of close.
Yeah. It is close, yeah. One has cheese, one has hot girls.
Whatever. I can attest to that. I've been there, so yeah, that is a fact.
But that is a fact. But nonetheless, look, I mean, well, that's okay. I mean, my Viking ancestry is from Sweden too, so I'm okay with that. But look, I mean, there's it's a totally different culture over there. There aren't massive rural communities like there are here. There's towns, and while the towns may be small, it's a different lifestyle. It's a different culture. And when you go hunting, it's very rare to go hunting, and you have to go, like you said, through the rigorous process to get your hunting license and to get this firearm. So for them, it's just a unique experience to do their hunting, which makes me very sad, by the way, for my Viking ancestry that used to say, to hell with the government, I'm going to go find a way to live on my own and figure it out by myself. So they've kind of lost their way for
your Viking ancestry. They figured out how to forage, bro.
Yeah.
Okay. The Vikings figured out how to forage. When we come back, I'm going to dig a little bit deeper into this Vox piece because, believe it or not, it gets better. And then we'll compare it against something that just happened in Sweden last week. We'll be right back.
Daniel Defense firearms are guaranteed for life, trusted worldwide, and designed, engineered, and manufactured right here in America. Daniel Defense, freedom, passion, precision.
Yeah, Daniel Defense is freedom, passion, and precision, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure to check them out, DanielDefense.com, DanielDefense.com, and the DoubleDFoundation.org, the DoubleDFoundation.org. More about our partners coming up after the next break. Armed American Radio's Daily Defense continues with Andy Hooser, the voice of reason, here in the 6 Hour studios. All of it being brought to you by the great X Insurance. Andy, welcome back, brother.
Yes, sir. Good times as always.
All right, so let's go back to this Sweden here, okay? Because, in Sweden, convicted of a felony, no guns for you. Beat your wife, no guns for you. Under a restraining order, no guns. Drive drunk, no guns. While the law does not spell out specific actions that cause a citizen to be unfit, quote unquote, to have a gun permit, it does say that the police must have a reasonable cause to suspend a permit. And these kinds of things might signal that a gun owner is unfit. So there's lots of things, because remember, ladies and gentlemen, they don't have a right to bear arms. To them, it's a responsibility. It's a privilege with responsibilities that they can lose. I learned it was possible to maintain a lively hunting culture along with mandatory gun registration and required safe storage. And despite these restrictions, Sweden has a strong hunting culture. And it goes on about hunting. Guns are part of Sweden's culture, history, and national defense, even though it has enjoyed more than 200 years of peace. And they go on and on and on. More about hunting, Andy. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Because what happened in Sweden just a few days ago, Andy? And there's a follow-up story on that today. There was a school shooting in Sweden. And you now have, I believe, at least 5 people killed. I think that number is up. If I'm not mistaken, it might even be as high as 11 right now. I have to check. Sweden's school shooting death toll rises to 11. That's including the killer. So that just happened 6 days ago.
Mark. I didn't think that any other nation had school shootings. It was only the United States with all the firearms that we had here. I didn't know that anybody else actually experienced that too.
Yeah, John Lott has pointed that out for decades. We are not alone. It just doesn't make the news over here like it does there. Okay. So in this particular case, with all of these hunting responsibilities, remember, in order to get a firearm in Sweden, you have to be responsible and prove your responsibility. To make up our own words here. So only responsible people, it comes right out of the Vox story, only responsible people have guns because of the process that they have to go through. And they have to do certain things with those guns. So apparently a responsible Swedish gun owner killed 10 people at a school just, last week on the 4th, 6 days ago. Now, what is Sweden's response to this? AWR is reporting today. We didn't even talk about this last night with him, ladies and gentlemen, because this story just popped now. But Sweden plans gun ban after controls failed to prevent school shooting. Andy, I thought only responsible gun owners who hunted responsibly. So now all those hunters in Sweden have to suffer? Can you explain this to me? Can you bring reason to this? Because you are the voice of reason.
Yeah, so they have a strong vetting process to go through all this red tape to decide whether you're a legitimate hunter and whether you will be able to go hunting or not in order for you to get a firearm and make it extremely difficult. And then a school shooting still happened. So now we're going to revoke the gun for everybody because you've already gone through the vetting process. You went through a rigorous red tape process for the government to decide whether you're worthy or not to carry a firearm. And apparently that process didn't work. So they're admitting their fault by just saying you can't have any guns at all because we tried to give you, you stuck your hand in the cookie jar, told you could have a cookie. Now you ate 5 of them. So now you can't have any cookies from now on.
5 of them. Now you can't have any.
Like, is that what we're up against here? That's what they're saying is really, hey, well, we gave you the opportunity to have a firearm and we went through that stringent process and the stringent process failed because something still happened. So now we're just going to revoke that right from everybody because, the government didn't apparently vet the process good enough because the government knows best. Like, none of it makes sense.
Yeah, the vetting process is so good because you must be, Vox was talking about, that's all it is. They're all responsible and they can trust it. As I read through more of what he's writing, but in my hunting camp, gun rights don't exist, just gun responsibilities. Wally and Norman know that. I guess Wally and Norman were 2 of his hunting buddies in Sweden. And they're all nice guys, it says. They can practice at shooting ranges all over Stockholm. When hiking in a city park, it's common to hear the measured shots of target practice nearby. And yet gun violence is low in Sweden. And this is an important point, ladies and gentlemen. I want to bring this up because I'm going to take these numbers at face value from back in 2016, and we'll just kind of juxtapose them as to where we are today. Andy, the country ranks 10th out of 178 countries in the world for per capita gun ownership, but in 2014 had only 21 homicides by firearms. In contrast, the U.S. is first in per capita gun ownership and had more than 8,000 gun homicides in 2014. Controlling for population, U.S. firearm homicides are 700% higher than Sweden's. Now, Sweden is a country, Andy, from a landmass standpoint, roughly the size of California, yet it only has 1/4 of California's population. So they're controlling for the population in this. So let's take these numbers at face value. This is what it tells me, folks. We have a cultural problem in the United States of America, Andy. We've known that for a long time. Sweden does not have big Democrat-run cities like we have in the United States. Sweden does not have the drug violence and gang problem that we have in the United States. Now, again, let's take these numbers at face value. Let's say that those numbers are accurate. More than 8,000 gun homicides in 2014, comparing Sweden to 2014, Andy. All right, let's say that those numbers are real. We just accept them on face value now for the purpose of this conversation. The vast majority of those 8,000 gun homicides in the United States. Now, that number is likely going to include suicide. We don't know. We'll say it doesn't. Let's just say it's 8,000 murders, okay? 95% of those or greater are due to what, Andy? Gun violence. The gun violence, 8,000 is due to what? Gang violence, I mean, not gun violence, but the gun violence is a result of gang violence in the United States. So we have cultural issues here in the United States that are far different than Sweden's. We have to ask ourselves this question, and it's a tough question, but we've asked it for years. What is it about the younger generation who is causing all of this problem? Because I didn't have this problem when I was in school. You had a school shooting in your school. Remind us of that.
Yeah, my senior year of high school went through that.
Now, you're a different generation than me. I didn't have that problem. Why now? What is it about the new generation, the younger generations, let's go 2 generations back from where we are right now, that is causing this problem, Andy? Why?
It's a great question. And
why doesn't it happen in Sweden?
How much time do we have to... Yeah.
As much time as you want. Take it away.
Yeah. I mean, you can look at mental health issues with the number of people on certain pharmaceutical pills. You can look at the breaking up of the family. You can talk about social media and the addiction to that, the isolation from kids, looking at the clicks as opposed to actually having face-to-face conversations, the parents that are working 2 jobs that aren't sitting down having dinner with the kids, talking about putting things into perspective that they've learned throughout the day, trying to work through whatever heartbreaks that they've had week because, I don't know, whatever trouble that they go through as they go through their puberty stage, that they don't know how to put it in perspective. I mean, there's so many different angles you can take at something like that people have tried to speculate on why. And I've said this stat on your show and in my show as well, that average 5th graders today have the same mental health anxiety as what someone that was in a psychiatric hospital in the 1950s and 60s had as a 5th grader. I mean, that's my daughter's age in 5th grade. I mean, that's insane. Why do we have all that? That's what we need to figure out. We need to start having that conversation as opposed to a gun regulation conversation.
Let me hold this device up in front of the camera. It's my phone. Theater of the mind. I'm holding my phone up. It's technology. Plays a huge role in this. Huge role in this. Yeah. We were outside. We were interacting with people when we were kids. I didn't have a helmet on. We had dirt clod fights. I remember we had BB gun fights over construction sites. One on one side of the pit that was soon going to be a basement. We'd build berms, throw dirt clods at each other, and shoot BB guns at each other. Somehow we all made it home okay. And then after dinner, in late evening or early evening, at dusk, we'd follow the fog truck, which wasn't fog. It was spitting out all kinds of chemicals to kill mosquitoes. And somehow we're all still here. We'll be right back. Hey, guys, cleaning our firearms is a messy job, isn't it?
This segment of Armed American Radio's Daily Defense is being brought to you by Daniel Defense. Visit DanielDefense.com. Now, back to the show.
Yeah, back to the show on a Monday. Final segment of Armed American Radio's Daily Defense on a Monday with you. Mark Walters filling your prescription for freedom today and every day in front of the 6 Hour Studios, in front of the Patriot Mobile Communication microphones, all being brought to you by X Insurance. Check out all of our partners, please. Make sure to pick up some pain relief stuff from Patriots Relief. That stuff works. I used it again today. My wife is using it now. She's like, wow, that stuff really works. Turned her onto it a couple days ago. And it doesn't have that overpowering smell. Greg, like when you use a Bengay or something like that, I say that because people remember that, the overpowering smell of that stuff. Yeah, this stuff doesn't have that at all.
Mentholatum?
It's got a tiny bit because it's, I say medicated. It's not medicated, but it has a little bit of that, but very little. It's not overpowering at all, and it absolutely flat out works. PatriotsRelief.com, PatriotsRelief.com. It'll also clear up your sinuses if you get it on your hands. Don't rub your eyes with it. I made that mistake. It's not hard to do. Patriots Relief get the discount over there, 40% off those great products. We've ordered more here because, as I said, my wife's using that emu oil and CBD rub, and the stuff is fantastic for pain. She's got her wrist in one of those deals, from like a carpal tunnel deal, and she's been using it all over her wrist, and it knocks the pain out for the day. Really, truly does. She'll put the brace on at night when she's sleeping, wake up, take it off, and put that stuff back on. Guys, this stuff works. And as far as sleep stuff, used them last night. Slept like a rock. Feel great today. Wonderful stuff. PatriotsRelief.com. Here's an Emerson knife right here in front of you. Boom. If you're on camera, there it is. EmersonKnives.com. EmersonKnives.com. Use the AAR promo code. Get 10% off over there from Ernie Emerson and his family. Check out BarrelBuddies.com. BarrelBuddy.com. Also, Heaven's Harvest for those 15-minute heat and bag meals. Camping season coming up for a lot of folks, except for Andy. I don't know, you camp it when it's 19 degrees out. I don't know, maybe in an igloo or something, Andy. But most of us, if we're going to go camping, we want the weather to be warmer, tent, campers, boats, stuff like that, which require a little bit warmer weather. And Heaven's Harvest has you guys covered. All of our great partners, including North American Arms, Car Arms, Daniel Defense. You can find them all at armedamericanradio.com. Please do that and support them. They make the show possible and have for many, many years. These are great people. And if you need a pillow, by all means, pick something up from Mike Lindell over there. Take advantage of all those great discounts and use the AAR promo code, and it says, thank you for supporting my gun rights. Andy Hooser, the voice of reason. Welcome back, my brother.
Man, flies right on by.
It does. I do have something else I want to point out on this Sweden thing real quick. As I was perusing this over the break, this guy, Justice Minister Gunnar Stromer, told Reuters in Sweden they're looking to ban AR rifles as a preventative measure. He said this even though the specific type of firearm used in the attack is unknown. They only said he had rifles with him, which he was licensed to own. Of course, because he was responsible. Because remember, in Sweden, only responsible people get licenses, and they just do responsible things because that's what good hunters in Sweden do. And Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson said, we have to ensure, I'm quoting, we have to ensure that only the right people have guns in Sweden. So what that means, Andy, is the state determines whether or not you're the right person before they will license you and make you jump through all of those hoops. Now, moving over to the United States, back home, victory in SAF-funded case challenging Illinois FOID mandate. Circuit Court judge in Illinois, ladies and gentlemen, has struck down the state's requirement to have a FOID card to possess a firearm in the home for personal protection in a case which, of course, was supported by the Second Amendment Foundation and the Illinois State Rifle Association. The case is State of Illinois versus Vivian Claudine Brown. And this case, ladies and gentlemen, has just kind of bopped around over the last few years. And here's what the judge had to say in his 15-page decision. The defendant's possession of a .22 caliber rifle within the confines of her home, even without a valid FOID card, falls squarely within the protections afforded her by the Second Amendment, Andy. If an intruder had entered Ms. Brown's home, this is the judge, and threatened violence towards her, and God forbid she was forced to use that .22 rifle to defend herself, she would have committed a Class A misdemeanor carrying with it a possible penalty of up to 364 days in the county jail. She could claim self-defense, but that does not change the fact that she possessed a firearm without a valid FOID card. Such an outcome is asinine, especially in this great nation that so cherishes the right to be secure and defend oneself within the home. Now, Andy, what's great about that ruling is it tells me that the judge gets it. He's not begrudgingly doing this because of the Bruin decision or in light of the Bruin decision. He's doing this because he understands the purpose of the Second Amendment and the right to self-defense, and that a FOID card, which was non-existent, because I can promise you Paul Revere didn't need to get a FOID card, okay? Nor did your founding fathers, ladies and gentlemen, all right? Remember that. He gets it. So this is clear that this judge understands the right to self-defense, and as he said himself, that it was asinine, especially in this great nation that so cherishes the right to be secure and defend oneself within the home. Andy, that's great news, is it not? Maybe Sweden should start taking some lessons, but they won't.
Yeah, that's encouraging. It's encouraging to hear judges say that and be like, not only do I just have to let you off because of whatever, but, this is ridiculous that we even had to go through this process, waste taxpayer money, by the way, and actually allow someone to defend themselves. You're right. I mean, Sweden should take a look at that. Again, I told you as we went into one of the breaks a few segments ago that, it's sad of the Viking heritage of how they were strong-willed. They were, surviving on their own, figuring things out on their own. And when they didn't like the government, they just, said, heck with you, we're going to go off and just start our own civilization because we don't want to deal with you. And they've kind of lost that mindset. And now it's all about let's, just do whatever the government says. We need our quote unquote socialism. We need this government control. Can I pretty please have a firearm? I really would just want to go hunting and just go and shoot an animal. Like it's begging, and it's kind of pathetic that other nations have to do that.
Do you think the Vikings, when they were foraging, were checking to see if there were weapons licenses on the hunting parties?
Yeah, we need to make sure. If you need to go and check your papers, make sure that you're okay and you're doing it legitimate. Like, come on, man.
Does Gustav have a permit? Gustav, where's your permit? Where's your club permit? You have a permit for that? Oh, no permit over there.
We're going to start registering swords and shields, back in the day. Like, what kind of crap is this? And that's what nations, I think, are starting to get back to. And look, I'm optimistic because this Trump MAGA America First movement is not just in America. We're seeing other nations take hold with this mindset as well, this conservative populist movement. And I'm hoping with these other nations that are starting to push back from this big government utopia, that's one of the issues they begin to look at and say, look, crime rates are ridiculous. We have murder rates that are absolutely insane. We're tired of waiting around for the government to solve the issue. We're going to do it ourselves, and they're going to start taking matters into their hands and saying, I'm not going to be a victim of someone coming in, raping my family and murdering me. I'm going to make sure that doesn't happen by being protected. And I don't care what the government says.
Yeah, I loved your statement. I couldn't help but chuckle. If they didn't like what the government did, they just said the heck with it, went off and started their own civilization.
I mean, that's, sometimes there's a lot of people that feel that same way.
Yeah, and my accent wasn't real Swedish, too, by the way, I remember my ex. That's what got me when I was a kid. The day I met her in school, I'll never forget it. She said, where are you from? She said, Sweden. I went, oh, uh-oh. Sweden. Okay. I'm hooked. I'm sure Gustav didn't talk like that, but nonetheless. Yeah, that's funny stuff. Andy, tell people where they can watch you and listen to you coming up in the next hour, brother.
You bet. Well, I'm not from Sweden, but you can find me on the HooserReason.com.
I could cuss you out in Sweden, too. In Swedish, too. I heard that a number of times, but I'm not going to repeat it because even though it's FCC controlled, somebody out there is going to know what I said. So I'm not going to do it.
That's
all right, Andy.
Always good to talk to you, my friend.
Oh, I love you, brother. Let's keep your eyes into the sky. Look for some UFOs. Maybe we can talk about that next week.
You know it. I'm down.
Armed American Radio's Daily Defense going to get up and do it again tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen. Well, because they don't want us to. That's why we're here. So enjoy your day. Stay safe. Carry on, carry often, carry absolutely everywhere. Never, ever, ever leave your cave without your club. Gustav would have never done that. We'll see you on the radio tomorrow, guys. Stay safe.
You've just filled your prescription for freedom with Mark Walters, presented by X Insurance. X Insurance on the Armed American Radio Network.
Those of you in the chat, funny stuff, on this day in AAR history, Mark unveils his Swedish accent. Yeah, I didn't do too well there. You'd think I'd know a little bit better because I do have some personal experience with it. And yes, I have been cussed out in Swedish many times. That's how I figured out what was going on. I kept hearing a series of words a few times when she got mad at me, and I knew those aren't nice. So I looked them up. Yeah, it was unfriendly, but it was funny. Anyway, that's funny stuff, you guys. So thanks for tuning in. Appreciate it very much. Enjoy the rest of your day, everybody, and we will see you on the radio tomorrow, okay? Stay safe. Enjoy your day. We'll see you on the radio.